here's one more double integral in case you need a little bit more practice. So here we want to figure out the double integral over the region r, y to the negative 1, e to the x dA, and here is r. Okay, so let's go ahead and just start plugging in whatever you want to plug in. So let's say you want to plug in for the first integral the limits of integration of x. So the inside integral is going to be from -1 to 0. Okay, that's y to the -1, e to the x, dx. So that means that my outside integral is just going to be 1 to 2, and then dy. Okay, of course, you can always just rearrange them if you want to. All right, so let's go ahead and take the integral of this. So I'm going to have the integral from 1 to 2. Now, since I'm taking the integral with respect to x first, I'm only going to look at the function of x. So this y to the -1 is going to be ignored, okay, because that's not an x. So now what we're going to plug in, we're going to take the antiderivative of e to the x. The antiderivative of e to the x is just going to be e to the x. And that's going to be between -1 and 0. And then we just have a dy on the outside. Right, dy. Okay, that's a different color, but whatever. Okay, so now let me go ahead and take the integral from 1 to 2. Let me evaluate this. So y to the -1 is just going to be a constant, and I'm going to plug in e to the 0 minus e to the -1. Okay, this is going to be dy. So I'm going to have the integral from 1 to 2, y to the -1, e to the 0 is just 1, minus e to the -1, dy. Now notice this thing is just a number. So this thing, I can just take it out of the integral, because it's just a number that I can put in the calculator. So this is going to be 1 minus e to the -1, and then I'm just going to have this integral, okay, integral from 1 to 2 of y to the -1 dy, because that's the only thing that's left. Okay, so I'm going to write this y to the -1 a little bit better, because notice that if I add 1 and divide it by -1 plus 1, I'm just going to get a 0 on the bottom. So that must mean this must be a special type of integral. So I'm going to write it like this. Integral from 1 to 2, y to the -1 is just 1 over y dy. Well, what's the antiderivative of 1 over y? Well, it's just going to be the outside, 1 minus e to the -1. The antiderivative of 1 over y is just going to be ln of absolute value of y between 1 to 2. And now let's just plug it in. So I'm going to have 1 minus e to the -1. Then I'm going to plug in 2 ln of absolute value of 2 minus ln of absolute value of 1. Well, the ln of 1 is just 0, so this guy's just going to go to 0. So all I'm left with is just 1 minus e to the -1 times the ln of absolute value of 2 is just 2. Okay, and this actually would just be the answer. This is still what we call the exact answer. If you want the approximation, just put this in the calculator to get what the approximation should be. Okay, so that's another problem for double integration. So in case you really needed another problem, then here's another one.